You ever hear silence after a crowd stops cheering? I mean real silence. Not absence of noise, but the moment your body realizes it's alone in a place that once roared for blood. That's the sound I remember most. Not the bones breaking, not the applause, not even the howl, just the quiet after, the after of me. They paid me to bleed, not for glory, not for justice, just the spectacle, the twitch, the tremble, the moment when a man becomes a myth, or a warning. And the thing is, I wanted it. God help me, I wanted it. They called it the Grey Circuit, said it was just another underground fight club, said I'd get my shot at redemption, a fat check, and one last headline. What they didn't say was this: don't win, don't kill it, because the thing I fought wasn't just a werewolf, it was a mirror. It was me before I even knew what I'd become. That night, I stepped into a cage under shattered floodlights in the ruins of an old city zoo. Moonlight leaked through the glass above, blood soaked into cracked concrete below, and in that pit, waiting in chains, was something too still to be afraid. It looked like a man wearing a wolf, like someone had painted skin over a snarl, and when I locked eyes with it, it smiled. No werewolf should smile, no beast should whisper your name before the fight starts. But it did. I didn't hear it with my ears, heard it behind my ribs, Cashus. Like it knew, like it remembered me from somewhere I didn't want to revisit. The bell rang, the chains clanged to the floor, and I struck first, elbow to the throat, hook to the jaw, knee to the chest. But it didn't fight back. It watched me bleed. It let me win, and as it collapsed, it mouthed something again. Not pain, not rage, just one word: welcome. I stood over it, fists trembling, breathing like a goddamn freight train. And then, the crowd didn't cheer, they didn't move, they didn't breathe. And I swear to you, every screen on every wall flickered gray, just for a second, just long enough to be missed. Unless you were cursed to remember. If you're still here, leave a mark, whisper your name, before it forgets you. They said the fight club was built in the ruins of a zoo. Didn't believe it at first. I mean, who the hell opens a werewolf pit in a place meant for caged animals? But after the fight, after the thing, I wandered through the back halls, couldn't sleep, couldn't think, smelled rot in the walls, not just sweat and blood. Older, wet stone, fur, memory. The doors down there weren't new. They were reinforced. Some had claw marks on the inside, others were sealed with symbols, circles inside spirals, jagged runes carved deep like someone had tried to bury the meaning in the metal. A guy named Devon ran the place. Shaved head, silver tooth, always grinning like he knew the punchline to a joke you hadn't heard. Yet, I asked him about the symbols. He said, insurance. The old ones weren't always compliant. I thought he meant the fighters. I was wrong. They weren't running a fight club. They were hosting a ritual. That night, I watched the footage back, not the live stream, the security angle, and I saw it right as the werewolf, if that's what it was, collapsed. The camera jittered. Just one frame, barely a blink, but in that flash, I wasn't in the ring. Something else was. Something with my shape, my posture, my scars. But its face was blank, like it was waiting to be assigned. That's when my shoulders started burning. Not aching burning, like acid had pooled beneath my skin. I ran to the mirror, peeled back my shirt, and there it was, a new tattoo. I hadn't put it there, a spiral, black and gray, pulsing like it was breathing. I scrubbed it raw, it didn't budge. I cut into it, it bled light. That's when I knew that hadn't just killed a werewolf. I'd inherited it, or worse, it had chosen me. I started hearing whispers, not voices, not hallucinations. They weren't mine. They came from screens, TVs that weren't plugged in, monitors that had been smashed. Even my reflection, especially my reflection, it would lag behind, smile, when I didn't tilt its head like it was listening to something I couldn't hear. Mara, the archivist, they called her the Index, was the only one who spoke straight. She handed me an old fight flyer. Paper, brittle, yellowed edges. Same logo, same pit, different name, Ashfang trial. Initiation, bout number 31, date 1983, my opponent's face. Same as the thing I fought, exactly the same, not similar, not family, identical, and beside it, scribbled in faded red pen, do not allow the kill, containment only, no gaze allowed, gaze, not fight, gaze. That's when the headaches started. That's when I woke up outside the cage one night. Fingernails gone, skin beneath them packed with stone dust, and in front of me were claw marks in the concrete, spelling one word. Again, I checked the live stream logs. That first fight, it had been viewed 11,000 times, but only 3 comments. The rest, comment removed by uploader, except I hadn't removed anything. The platform said original poster has been overwritten. What the hell does that even mean? I clicked on one of the saved clips, and I heard it. Not the bell, not the crowd, but me, whispering. Something I hadn't said. Something in reverse. Emaclu, Ort ETH 880, Jaya. And in the reflection of the cage wall, I saw it again, the grayed thing, watching me, from inside the steel, smiling. I used to feel proud of my body, the scars, the calluses, the muscle. It all meant something. Proof I'd survived, proof I'd fought, proof that pain could be earned and worn like armor. Now I don't know what's mine anymore. The veins in my arms, they move, not in rhythm, not with blood. They shift like they're remembering something I haven't done yet. I woke up one night in the locker room, hands soaked in ink. Not black ink, gray. My chest was covered in glyphs I didn't recognize. Twisting runes written in concentric rings, pulsing in patterns that made me nauseous if I stared too long. I washed it off. It came back the next morning. Each new fight, each new light made them darker. Devon, the promoter, stopped asking if I was okay. He just said, "You're almost ready." Ready for what? The infection, the transmission. They said werewolves turn by bite, but this was a psychic disease. One passed by gaze, by exposure, by the intent to kill. The rage I felt in that cage didn't vanish when the beast dropped. It burrowed, and now it sees through me. I think I'm becoming a reflection, something built from the memory of violence. I don't dream anymore. I glitch, black and white images frames. I can't control playing out in fragments. Sometimes I'm in the cage, other times I'm watching the cage from inside. A screen, sometimes. I'm not even human. There's a video, a new one. Didn't film it, didn't upload it. It just showed up. It's titled Cashus vs. Cashus. In it, I fight myself, but only one of us screams. The other smiles, gray eyes, silver-veined, arms tattooed runes glowing as the bones twist. I win, but the wrong one stands up. Mara found an archive recordings from the 70s, reel-to-reel stuff. One fight in particular. A man named Elijah. Same tattoos, same smile. After his third match, he stepped into the audience mid-fight, looked at the camera and said, "They think the curse spreads through blood, but it's the scream that seals it." He bit out his own tongue, died on the spot. No footage ever surfaced, except it did. That same clip now loops on my phone. Every time I unlock it, even when I delete it, my phone camera flickers when I walk past mirrors. At first, I thought it was cracked glass. But it's not. It's my reflection moving before me. It smiles, 2 seconds early. It lifts its hands when mine are still at my sides. It's rehearsing, like it knows what's coming, like it's becoming me faster than I can hold on. I went to a tattooist, told him to burn the glyphs off me. He tried, but when the needle touched skin, it melted, turned to ash in his hands, and then the symbol reformed bigger, this time across my neck, like a collar or a crown. There's a whisper I keep hearing in the locker room, in my sleep, in my breath. 3 words, repeating, "Not the moon, not the moon, not the moon." And when I look at my reflection during that phrase, my mouth isn't moving, but my reflections is. This isn't a werewolf curse. It's not a full moon thing, not a bloodline thing. It's a mirror curse, born when the need to destroy mirrors back into you. You kill the beast, and something behind the glass decides you've passed the test. They call it the gray howl, but it's not a sound. It's a signal, one that echoes through pain, rage, memory, and once you hear it, you become a transmitter. I thought the live stream was for the crowd, for the thrill, for the payout. I didn't know I was broadcasting the infection. See, it's not just the kill, it's the witnessing. The gray howl isn't a beast you fight. It's a thought, an idea of a creature desperate to wear your face, and when enough people believe they've seen it, it becomes true. The first clue was the lag. I watched the fight back again, this time through the raw feed archive. I hit play and noticed something off. My opponent lunged. I dodged, but in the frame playback, I moved first, before the lunge, before the twitch, like I knew it was coming, like I wasn't reacting like I'd seen it already, or done it before. That's when I found the timestamps, each copy of the fight online, different by seconds, sometimes frames, but one version, one corrupted file ran backwards, from death, to impact, to stillness, and that version had comments, thousands, but they weren't comments, they weren't responses. He's outside my window, my dog won't stop growling at the screen. I heard the howl in my sleep. I saw him smile and I couldn't stop crying for an hour. I looked in the mirror and he blinked before me. I traced the IP logs. Most were deactivated accounts. Old, burned. Some hadn't posted in over a decade. One username kept appearing. Great Transmission 331, I messaged it, asked, what are you? It replied, receiver, and then sent a single video clip, me, standing in the cage, but this time, the cage was empty, just me, staring straight into the lens, mouth closed, but the subtitles read, if you're still watching, share this, before it watches someone else, and the camera zooms, closer, closer, into my eye, and inside it, you see, the crowd, you see you. I tried to pull the power, I smashed the servers, ripped the hard drives out with my bare hands, but when I turned around, the screen was still on, flickering static, then my face, but not mine, ash-gray eyes, veins like spider cracks under skin, no mouth, just a grin that kept stretching, wider than human, like a rictus. And it spoke with my voice, you're part of this, now. I called Mara, told her to leave town. She answered on the first ring, said, it's too late. I saw the fight last night. I couldn't stop. I said, delete it. She whispered, I can't stop shaking. It's like I'm standing in someone else's skin. Then silence. Then, he's behind you. Cass, click. I ran to the mirror, but it was already there. My reflection, not mimicking, watching. I haven't slept in 3 nights. I dream while I'm awake now. Sometimes I'm in the cage. Sometimes I am the cage. Sometimes I'm in a room with no windows, no floor, just walls made of televisions, all tuned to the same frame. Me, dying, and being born, in gray. That's when I realized the gray howl isn't a sound, it's a frequency, and every scream, every cheer, every replay amplifies it. It doesn't need a moon, it needs memory, and I've given it mine. The circuit wasn't a fight club, it was a ritual loop, one that grows each time it's watched. The more who see it, the more it broadcasts itself. The gray is real, because we gave it an audience. And now, you're part of it, if you're still watching. Share this, like and subscribe, before it watches someone else. They called me back for one last fight, said the viewers demanded it, said I owed them a rematch. Funny, nobody said who the opponent was, just handed me a folded slip of paper before the cage match. Inside, a name, mine. I stood in the locker room, staring at the same cracked mirror, runes still glowing under my skin, reflections still smiling before I did, and something else now, the veins. They pulsed in time with the overhead lights, like the building was breathing with me, or I was breathing with it. Devon greeted me in the tunnel with his silver-toothed grin. You look good, Cashus. Strong, symmetrical. I asked him, what the hell is this? He said, evolution. I asked, am I fighting a clone? He shook his head. No, champ, you're fighting the version of you the world believes in now. I said nothing. He leaned in, lowered his voice, and whispered, you've already lost. The doors opened and I stepped into the cage, crowd screaming, lights pulsing, every screen in the arena glitching to static, and there it was, me, or what the gray had built from me. It was wearing my body, but wrong. 2 tall muscles cracked like stone, joints bending backward, eyes like mirrors reflecting the entire arena, and its chest, tattooed in the same runes I had carved in sleep, but reversed, like a negative image of sin. We circled each other. It didn't breathe, it didn't blink, it just mirrored my every move half a beat before I made it. Not reacting, predicting, nor remembering. The fight wasn't a fight, it was a ritual reenactment, for the crowd, for the feed, for the circuit. They weren't watching to see who'd win, they were watching to see who they'd become. I landed a punch. The creature staggered, grinned, veins split open, spilling light and ash, and then it spoke. I was never the beast. I was the proof you needed one. And with that, it opened its mouth and screamed. Not a roar, not a howl, a static burst that knocked the cameras offline. Lights shattered, crowd fell silent, all sound gone. Except in my head where the howl echoed like a siren underwater, and I fell to my knees. Not from pain, from memory. Every fight, every scream, every hit, played in reverse inside me, and in that moment, I realized I wasn't infected. I was seeded, built, shaped, broadcasted. Gray wasn't spreading, it was awakening, using me as its signal tower. My bones shifted, my jaw cracked, hands spasmed, but I didn't become a werewolf. I became a mirror, reflecting the rage and horror of every eye that had ever locked onto me. And now, they were reflecting back. The crowd rose, each of them shimmering, their eyes, all gray. They had seen too much, and the gray had seen them seeing. I tried to scream for help. No voice. Tried to run. No legs. The thing in the ring took my form fully, stepped through me, and then turned to the crowd and bowed, and they applauded, like they'd been waiting, because they had. This wasn't a fight. This was a transmission ritual. and I had reached maximum bandwidth. I was no longer Cashus. I was the carrier. And that's when the final screen came back online. Not the live stream, a reflection feed, showing not me, not the crowd, but you, watching, from wherever you are, and your face, glitching. I don't remember falling, only rising, but not as me, not as Cashus. As the echo, my bones didn't break. They reordered. My skin didn't tear. It peeled like old wallpaper sloughing off to reveal something written underneath. Script made of scars, glyphs etched from past wounds. Every fight I'd won carved itself into my muscle. Every opponent I humiliated curled into my spine. And my voice, it didn't deepen, it multiplied. I spoke in all their voices, even the ones I'd silenced. This wasn't a werewolf transformation, it was a mirror birth, and I was the surface it needed. The gray doesn't howl at the moon, it howls at memory. The crowd began to shift. First one, then another. No tearing skin, no full moon, just recognition. Like the moment a nightmare becomes familiar, their eyes blinked gray, their teeth clenched without snarling, and every camera, every single lens in the arena turned at once. To me, that's when the signal went live, not streamed, released. Through broken screens, through static, through intention. It wasn't content anymore, it was contagion. And now it had shaped me. I became a creature made of reflections, a ghost made of footage, a scream played backward. No fur, no claws, just presence, and a voice that said, I was what you looked for, but now I'm what looks back. Every sound in the room inverted, applause turned to distortion. Cheering became crackling radio hiss. The lights pulsed not with electricity but heartbeat, mine or maybe yours. It's hard to tell now. And then, I walked out of the cage, through the wall. The concrete parted like mist, like it had been waiting for this all along, like I was walking back into the screen. Devon was gone, or maybe he never existed. Mara. She'd been watching from a control room. I saw her silhouette through the glass. She looked at me, smiled through tears, and whispered something. Now it knows your name. Then she vanished, into static. I stepped into the corridor. The TV on the wall flickered one by one. Me, not me, me with no mouth, me with no skin, me as a blur of light and shadow, and in one screen, I saw the world, shaking. From inside, I thought I was cursed. But the truth is worse. I was the delivery system. The gray howl is a broadcast that requires a host, a voice, a face, a name, and once that name is spoken enough, it's no longer yours. It belongs to everyone who remembers. I don't know what I am anymore. Not werewolf, not man, just signal, just transmission. And the worst part, it's not over, because you watched, you listened, you saw me transform. And that's how it begins. That's how it always begins. I was the first, or maybe just the most recent. But now, when the gray howls again, it won't be me, it'll be you. I haven't spoken in days, at least. Not with my voice. The thing that comes out when I try to scream sounds like static played in reverse. I hear words, but not mine, yours. I walk through reflections now. Storefront glass, black phone screens, the sheen of spilled oil under street lamps. They shimmered just long enough to show me someone else wearing my face. Sometimes smiling, sometimes bleeding, sometimes just waiting. There's no more Fight Club, no gray circuit, just the feed, looping, always, even offline, even unplugged. It plays, in the dark, in the back of your eyes when you blink too slow. They say the brain doesn't know the difference between memory and imagination. That's the gray's trick. It doesn't need to be real. Just remembered, just believed, and now, you've seen it. There's no vaccine for belief, no firewall for folklore, and no mercy in mirrors. People around the world started reporting it. First dreams, then reflections that moved out of sync, then footage of their own faces changing grainy at first, like a bad signal, but it spreads, even faster in silence, even faster when denied, and those who try to delete it only accelerate it, because the file that doesn't live on your device, it lives in your recognition of it. I watched a girl in Tokyo tear out her bathroom mirror with her bare hands. Watched a man in Detroit walk backward into traffic while reciting coordinates. Watched a child in Berlin draw my face on the wall, in ash, with no prior exposure, just instinct. I think that's the final stage. The loss of self. You don't become the monster. You become the medium. You're just the speaker now, and something else is doing the talking. I tried to forget, tried every ritual, every cleansing, but forgetting is exactly what the gray waits for, because when you forget who you were, it has space to rewrite who you are. I saw myself on someone else's screen the other day, but I wasn't moving. Just paused, smiling, waiting, and the person holding the phone, they weren't breathing, just watching, and somewhere behind them, in the static of a broken speaker, I heard it again, the first howl, the one that isn't a sound, the one that doesn't need air, the one that lives in the idea of itself. So now I record this, not to warn you, not to stop it, just to mark the moment when it became yours. Now you've seen it, and it's seen you, before the next full moon. Mark your screen, because when it howls again, you'll know which version of you answered. You watched too long, the next one is yours. And for those who hunger for more, step deeper into the shadows with our ultimate werewolf horror playlists linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them, and trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.